Welcome back to What's Next with Lacey, the podcast where I interview young professionals about their career journeys so far. Hello, friends. Welcome back. It is so lovely to be here. It's Monday. It's a beautiful Monday in July. We're almost at the end of July, which is crazy. This year has gone absolutely zooming past. I cannot believe that we are almost at August, but here we are. I am so excited to introduce you to this week's guest. This episode was truly a dream come true because I got to chat with the incredibly talented Dustin. Dustin is an actor in the early stages of his career, and he very generously sat down with me to talk about all things acting and lift up the curtain on that whole industry. We talk about auditions and voice coaches, survival jobs, and building community in what is such a vulnerable industry. So it's all to come and all very exciting. Confession time. I once wanted to be an actor. Shocking to literally no one who knows me, but I quickly realized the amount of work, the vulnerability, and the actual talent it requires, and I gracefully exited the stage. That said, I've remained super curious about that life, and so I'm so grateful that Dustin has given me and my listeners a front row seat to his experience. He's not just thoughtful, he's remarkably talented. I recently watched him in a project that he mentions in this episode. No spoilers, but I was genuinely blown away. I talk more about this project in this week's Substack, which, speaking of, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Go find me at Lacey Dickers and catch up on all the things that I've written so far. They are highly entertaining, so you don't want to miss it. This episode definitely runs long, but honestly, I could have kept going and chatting with Dustin for forever. He was truly just that good. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Dustin. Dustin, welcome to What's Next. It is so good to see you. Thank you so much for coming. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this. I'm super excited. This is my podcast maiden voyage, so pretty excited to see how this goes.
Yay!
Yeah, doing well. This is awesome.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of my guests, it's been the case that this is their first podcast, and most have come out on the other side saying this is so fun. I've even had one guest come out and be like, wait, I want to start my own podcast because this was so much fun. So I'm like glad that I can add this experience to people's lives and, give them something new and exciting to do. All right, let's dive right in. You are an actor,
Yes.
which is so cool and so interesting. And I honestly, when I started this podcast, it was professions like yours that really intrigued me because I feel like there's so many different ways to be an actor. There's so many different paths to go down, so many different experiences. But at the same time, it is also kind of a profession that I feel is kind of gatekept in how it actually works, in what the process is. So thank you for coming on. And I'm so excited to dive right in. And I want to start with, how would you describe your profession? How would you describe what your work is now, what you're gearing towards, to just someone you're meeting for the first time?
Wow. I love that question. I love answering that from like where I'm at because I'm an actor. Like you said, I've dived into different mediums of acting or whatnot, but I listen to a lot of podcasts or read things with actors who are at a certain point in their career, and this is a perspective of someone who is actively in the beginning phases and building a career, which I don't hear a lot of, and I don't know if this will be interesting or helpful to anyone, but I am always looking for people. I'm like, what about people in the same spot of their career where I'm at? That'd be super interesting.
No, exactly. I feel like you are so right. We are missing that early stages of this kind of career. No, totally. So
if I were to describe what I do, I mean, we all know what actors are. I think everyone in this day and age, we all have some sort of streaming service or go to theater or a combination of both. And I think it gets very, glamorized, if that's a word. Like it just which is really cool. What we do is a ton of fun. What I do is a ton of fun. But really, like what my work is, especially right now, is my work is, I guess, just continuing to sharpen my skills
Hmm.
and figure out what I want to say in my
Hmm.
acting, figure out who I am and what my perspective is and what I can share. Because I can go into an audition or a rehearsal or something and try to impersonate someone, another actor that I know. And I don't know, that just like people can smell that a mile away. And
Hmm.
so I think my job as an actor is really spending my time thinking about the technical aspects of things. I still study with my voice teacher, I work with my acting coach. It is technique. There is technique to work on, but it really is just thinking about like what is my perspective on life and what is my perspective on kind of anything you could imagine. It could be macaroni and cheese, it could be
Hmm.
politics, it could be a lot of things. And how do I bring that to a character? And how
Yeah.
do I bring that to life? And how do I take this fictional character or historical character and bring that to life in an honest, authentic way, staying true to myself, staying true to what's written by the writer, staying true to what the director's vision is, and also, yeah, mixing that all together and just putting it out there.
So, as we said, you're in early stages, and also an actor's career is so amorphous. Like no day looks the same. So the next question might be a little bit ridiculous of a question, but what would a typical day be like for you, if you even have one?
There's like a multifaceted answer there. I think on the one hand, there's no typical day. It depends on the time of year. Are we knee deep in audition season? Because
Hmm.
that could be very different from right now, where there's more of a lull. Or am I in a production? Because then that will change what that looks like. It also depends on what job I'm currently working between gigs to support myself. So currently, I work at a clubhouse for women executives. It's called Chief. We have clubhouses across the country. I work at the New York City one. I'm a bartender, barista, server, furniture mover, talent. But I've done so many things at this place. But that's kind of my day to day, Monday to Friday, amongst the acting stuff that I do to just stay sharp, stay focused. So a typical day could look like if I wanted to really break it down to the most typical, we'll just say either I'm working in the morning or I'm working in the evening. So whichever one of those, my work shift as a bartender, as a barista, consists of going in, getting behind the bar, being there for 8 hours, chit chatting with people, making drinks, typical barista bartender stuff.
Hmm.
Outside of that, though, in the time that I have either before or after work, depending on when I'm working, it is exercising, keeping myself physically fit so that I can be prepared for whatever I might need to do. I guess in life in general, I think I want to be prepared for anything, but especially as an actor, like I want to be prepared to do a somersault on the stage if I need to, or climb a ladder or whatever. It could be
Yeah.
anything. I'm also outside of that time, like there's reading. I love reading, just expanding my perspective on things through that. It could be watching movies, watching TV, watching plays through one of the subscriptions I have, just as both leisure and kind of curiosity of analyzing, oh, how does this actor do this? How does this actor do that? It's a combination of both, and then just working on my own stuff. So singing, working on my repertoire that I will bring to auditions. If I'm in audition season, it will be just sharpening the stuff that I use for most of my auditions. If we're outside of like the big audition season, like right now, it could be learning a lot of new stuff. I get very there are certain songs that I will stick to because I love the way it feels and I love singing them, but I got to keep it fresh, and I love learning new stuff and showing up to auditions with something new. And yeah, it just feels like a new toy. So learning new music could be reading plays, it could be learning a scene for something new, it could be prepping a monologue, any of
Yeah.
those things. Yeah.
It's such an ever changing career and ever changing. Like your days just always must be looking so different. So how do you like balance the fact that acting is your passion, it is your real work, but then also, yeah, you do need to make sure you're bringing your all to the job that's supporting you so that you can keep that going? And like, how do you also make it work that one day an audition might come up and you have a shift? How do you balance that? Do you tell your work you're an actor? How does that all work?
Ooh, yeah. Great question. So I think keeping in mind that acting is my real work and balancing that with having to physically be present doing, like manual labor. It's not necessarily exhausting like doing something super physical like construction or bricklaying or
Mhm.
working in a farm or like, but I'm standing on my feet for 8.5
Yeah,
hours. I'm making
absolutely.
stuff and this and that, and it's just time that I have to be somewhere else during the week. And then there's just like life stuff too. So th- that to me is the biggest challenge of being an actor who is working to support themselves financially and trying to get things off the ground, is just the time it takes and having to support yourself and the energy it takes to my wife and I my wife is an opera singer, and so she's very familiar with this plight as well. But we talk about this a lot, where we're really working two careers at once if you want to make
Hmm.
it work. And so working 40 hours a week at this clubhouse, which I will say has been the best job in terms of supporting me while I do my acting that I've had thus far. Thank you, Chief. But it's so easy to just come home at the end of a shift and be exhausted and not
Yeah.
have the brain space to want to work on something. And I love our members. I love the people I work with, but you as a bartender, barista, whatever, I'm constantly interacting with people all day, and it takes a lot of emotional and mental energy to hold space for so many people throughout a given day. And so I find myself oscillating between being very present at work and then being very tired outside of work, and realizing, wow, I really have not been putting the time and energy I needed to into, or feel like I want to, into my acting career. Or I'll be so involved in what I'm doing acting wise, and then I get to work and I don't necessarily have the capacity to engage with people, and I'll kind of close off. And
Hmm.
I try to do that in an appropriate way, but sometimes I know I can have a little bit of an edge when I'm putting a wall up and stuff. So it's finding that balance, and sometimes there's not necessarily a balance. Sometimes it is just I'm not totally present for you today. I'm going to be polite. I'm going to do what you need me to do, but I can't necessarily like hold the space that you're asking me to hold for you to someone at work. Or sometimes it's, what, it's okay this week that I don't have the energy to, be learning a new monologue and going to 10 auditions and doing this. I just need to take care of myself because I am run ragged, and I need to, I can't do good work if I'm not physically and mentally rested and well.
Yeah. So it's about just having that grace for yourself to know that you are fully doing two careers at
Yeah.
once,
Yeah.
and being okay with the fact that you cannot give it all to both necessarily at one time. And just that is something that you just need to be aware of. Yeah, that
Hmm.
is so interesting. I've always wondered that because it is truly two careers. It's so impressive. What about auditions? We talked a little bit like we're
Yeah.
not in audition season now, but it is when is audition season? And like, how does that work? Like, that indeed must be the most exhausting time for you with everything that you do.
Yeah, definitely. It's such an interesting thing because it's absolutely exhausting. It's also, I just got goosebumps thinking about it, which is really, it's a good sign. I still like it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
little reminders like that are great, but it's thrilling. It's like so exciting. It's when I do it, I'm reminded like of why I'm doing it and how much I love it. And yeah, so at least for musical theater and theater in general in New York, the main periods of time for auditions are spring and fall. Spring, theaters from around the country, like the regional theaters and also like New York theaters, are in New York. They're renting rooms at one of the rehearsal spaces downtown or midtown, and we have several apps, websites that we as actors build profiles on, and it's basically like the, what do you call them, the classifieds for actors, where there's audition postings. You can scroll through, see what's when. I fill up my Google Calendar is the most complicated. Well, I guess it's probably not that complicated. It feels complicated to me, but
No,
color
totally.
coordinated, just everything. And it'll just be full of auditions. And so, yeah, in the spring or in the fall, typically I will map out when those things are. I have an amazing group that I work with. And fortunately, they're really willing to work with me in terms of, can I come in late? Can I come in early? Are you okay if I work the early shift today? And so it doesn't
Right, right,
always work
right.
out. You can't necessarily hit up all of them, but I'm so lucky to have a team that supports me in that way. Not every job I've had has been like that. I've called in sick to go to an audition that I really want to go to. There's any number of things, if there's something that you feel like you really got to go to. And then the thing that's tough about that too is a lot of the times, even now that I'm able to get in, and I am a member of one of the unions that supports opera singers. It's recognized as a sister union for the musical theater and like straight play, like Actors Equity is the union. So I'm able to get on a standby list and get seen at an audition with pretty good regularity. But even then, you show up if it's a popular audition that a lot of people want to go to because it's a good, reputable theater. There are plenty of times that I show up and I put my name on the list and I have to leave, and I'll wait for hours, and I just have to leave. And it happens. It's part of the game. I'm lucky enough to be a member of a union that gets me on a list earlier. But when I first moved to New York and had no idea what the theater audition scene was like, and my opera union membership had expired because I wasn't going to be singing opera anymore. So I was like, I don't
Mm.
need this anymore. I was showing up at 6 a.m. to put my name on a non-union list and just hoping all day that I get seen. And there were most days I'd show up and wait and not get seen. And I'd probably get to audition realistically 30-40% of the time that I showed up. And that felt like a good week.
Wow.
Now I'd say it's closer to 50-60% I get to audition. But yeah, even if you take a day off or call in sick, you might not even get to audition. So it's a real gamble. And it's just flooded. It's wild. It truly is wild.
Gosh, that is crazy. I had no idea that you may not even be seen for an
Hmm.
audition. So many questions just popped up in my head. Firstly, just simply like logistic wise, and for anyone listening, what are the websites that you are building your profiles on to find these auditions?
Yeah, so the two that I would say are most common that I use are Backstage and Actors Access. I believe both of them have limited access to them for free, but really,
Mm.
if you're going to be looking for auditions, if you need the audition details, if you intend to be using them as someone who's pursuing acting, it's worth the investment to pay for the annual subscription, because I mean it's essential. Yeah, you really can't do it without it, I don't think.
Yeah.
But hey, it's a tax write-off.
Oh my gosh, good to know. Oh wow. So is that for film as like well as theater, or is it really just more like the theater world that those are useful for?
It's definitely both. I don't know if this is just the way I'm using them, but it seems to me that I find more of the theater stuff that I'm going in for, submitting my materials for on Backstage, and I come across more film and TV stuff that I'm interested in on Actors Access. But they definitely both have both. You'll see postings for the same auditions on both. They just format them slightly differently. I know different actors who prefer both of them for different reasons. It's just kind of what formatting works for your brain better. But I think it's worth it to have both, because there are sometimes posts on one that you won't see on the other, and vice versa. And it's just so important to stay up to date with what's coming up, and what people are auditioning for, and what shows are going to be coming out, and just the trends and things like that.
I'm still reeling over the fact that you may not even be seen. How do you handle that. Like you've just spent hours I know it's like happening less now, but like at the beginning of your career, like you spent hours waiting to not be seen. And also, why does that? I mean, I guess you like the production or whatever it may be, it only has a finite amount of time, but like they could be missing out on the perfect person for the role because they didn't see everyone for it. Like, I don't really understand the process behind that.
It's really interesting for sure. And coming from the opera world, I guess I think I have a little perspective that some of the theater actors that I know who have never done opera, there are plenty of people who have experienced both, but there's a bit of perspective on how opera does their auditions, at least when you're getting started, where in the beginning, like when you're coming out of school, when you're looking at young artist programs as a young opera singer or residencies or things like that, typically what you'll do is you will submit a pre-screen audition. So you'll record as professional and high quality of videos as you can of your repertoire, and then you will send them in with an application and an application fee that is non-refundable. Someone within the company will go through the applications, go through the pre-screen recordings, make a decision on a first round of cuts, and if you make it past that round of cuts, if you make it past the pre-screen, you are invited to an in-person audition, which is scheduled. So you have an actual time slot. So in this way, in a sense, anyone who wants to apply can apply.
Mm-hmm.
And in theory, everyone who does apply is given their chance to be heard. In practice, I don't know. It's impossible to know unless you send them a YouTube link and you check the views.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I got my rejection. I also noticed nobody's viewed my video.
Yeah.
So,
Did
but
anyone actually? Yeah. Give me my chance.
you have to
Yeah.
assume that hopefully you've been given your chance to be heard, and you get to move on or you don't. But that method has its problems, as you can imagine, where it's, they're taking money from singers to apply, which is tough. And hundreds of people are applying to the most competitive one, if not thousands for some of them, and getting cut. And it's just tough. It's tough in that way. But at least then, when you show up for your audition, I have a 10:52 slot, so they may be running late, but I'm guaranteed an audition. I'm not
Yeah.
going to show up and have that be in vain. With the theater, I remember when I first came to New York and I had no idea what I was doing, and I had a friend give me some basics, and you show up at these buildings. This is where you find what auditions are happening when and where. And I love that in theory, if you show up, anyone who shows up has a shot,
Yeah.
which is awesome. It's different from opera in that way, where it's like you can't be sure if someone watches your video. Well, if you show up, you can be sure that they watch you because you're in a room with them and you get at least 30 seconds to just be
Give it
there
your
and
all.
do your thing. Yeah. But it's just such a saturated market, and there's just so many people who want to do this, especially in New York City, that, yeah, like I said, when I first started and had no union affiliation because mine had lapsed, I would sign up on these non-union lists and people would show up. I'd get there at 6:30 in the morning, and there'd already be a list started with 10 names. And if you show up much later than 6:30, you could get there'd be 50 names because so many people want to do it. And yeah. And then you'll get into the audition later, once this is before the buildings even open, so it's on a piece of binder paper outside. You get into the room, that list is transferred to an official list. And I will say, props to the theater community. It is amazing to me that these lists are not tampered with and are honored and transferred properly onto the official list, because anyone who does mess with it is very frowned upon. I really appreciate that very unofficial system is honored. But
Yeah.
you know, in that way, like for non-union, you'd get first the people who are in the union and signed up for slots get priority. Then the people who are in the union but didn't sign up in advance for an audition can sign up on a standby list. Then the people who have, and this is probably more than we need to get into, but to get into the Actors Equity Union, their old system was that you would work at theaters to accrue points, and once you reach a certain amount of points, you are eligible to join the union. So people who had points towards their union membership would be third on the list, and then finally non-union. So you're looking at hundreds of people on a list, hoping they get through them. It's not a perfect system, and they do miss a lot of people, but they also, props to the casting directors and stuff. Most of them probably listen to, over the course of a day, I mean, I'd imagine well over 100 people, and a lot of them are doing multi-day auditions. They're hearing hundreds of people. They really are seeing as many people as they can, which is just exhausting. Like, even if people are great, it's a lot of time to focus and try to like sift through potential applicants.
That is an exhaustive process for everyone involved, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk through what happens when you do get seen? Like, what is the actual audition process, and how are you handling the nerves? That must be so stressful. You've probably waited for a bit, building up in your head. You're seeing all these. I mean, this is all knowledge I've gotten from, Fame or whatever, movie or TV show I've seen. But like, you're surrounded by all these people who are like you, like wanting this role. So like, how do you stay calm in those situations?
That is that's a work in progress for sure. So yeah, what it looks like, I feel like, I mean, it's super exciting in a sense, but it's also very not glamorous. These rehearsal studios, God bless them, they're great and stuff, but it's these big floors in Midtown Manhattan, a lot of times multi floors, with just room after room after room after room of people warming up, auditioning, singing, etc., etc., which I personally find to be a really exciting energy to be around. But it's also, when you're there for an audition, it can absolutely stir up butterflies, to say the least.
Yeah.
And typically, when I am showing up for an audition, I know where I'm going, I know what the audition is, and great. So I'll show up to the space. I will generally go to the bathroom immediately just to get that out of the way, drink some water. I will get my headshot and resume. They like them to be stapled together so that it's like a front back kind of thing. I mean, you could also print them out front back, but it just kind of seems to be very common. You have your headshots that have been taken and mailed to you. You got your nice glossy pictures, and then you print out your resumes and you put them together and you cut the edges off because it's not the size of a piece of printer paper. So at all the audition spaces, they have a little station with a paper cutter, with staples, with scissors, so that everyone can do their little headshot station. And then personally, I can't, I just, it's so funny. I get very passionate about this, but I can't go into an audition, especially if I'm going to be singing, without warming up. I've done it before. I know different people have different voices and different methods and stuff. And this is what works for me. And I think ultimately anyone doing this needs to find what works for them. But if I don't warm up, even if my warm up ends up being 5 minutes because my voice feels great that day and I'm just like locked in there, I just think it's like I would never go lift weights without stretching. So a lot of these rehearsal spaces understand, they know what's going on. You can rent a space for 15 minutes at a prorated rate. I get my 15-minute warm-up room, just kind of stretch out, do some physical stuff, breathing, warm up my voice, usually run the cut of the song that I'm going to be singing if it's for a musical, or if it's for a play, just go through the monologue I'm going to be presenting, or if they've provided sides, a chunk of a scene, I'll go through that, so that I'm just clear on what I'm doing, clear on what I'm saying, just logistically, like, okay, these are the words that I'm saying. I'm going to speak them out loud so that I don't get tongue tied, or I'm going to sing through the piece just so that, okay, I've done it. Like, I know where it is and sitting in my voice, but then also going through it to get your intention. I feel like that's a very buzzy actor word. Like, what's your intention? What's your intention? Which is great. Not only do I want to have the intention for my character in that moment, like, what am I trying to accomplish? I also try to give myself an intention for every audition. And that can be a character motivation. Like, I'm going to convince you of X, Y, or Z. Or it could be my intention for this audition is to stand in one place because I have been so fidgety in auditions for the last, 3 days. My intention is I'm just going to deliver this standing in one place. And giving myself like a very clear, concrete goal helps me to calm my nerves. That's what I do to like settle my nerves. Aside from various breathing exercises, I love box breathing. I think it's super effective. Just closing my eyes, kind of doing real quick meditations, just clearing my thoughts, and then focusing on, okay, what is my singular, I pick one, what is my singular intention for this audition that I want to accomplish? Because then I can build on it from there. If I give myself too much to do, which that's my MO. I love to just add more and more and more and more. If I give myself too much to do, then I'm trying to do too much and it's all over the place and I'm scattered and it's crazy. I just need one thing to focus on, and that can help me just stay centered. But once you get there, you get your name on the list, you wait until you're called, ideally less than 3 hours. But, sometimes you're there for a while. And once you are called, they call up a group of, I don't know, 7 to 10 people. They line you up. You stand in a line with your headshot, with your binder, with your music, and you just one after another stand outside the room. You can almost always hear everyone auditioning before you. So not only are you like, oh, this is what other people are bringing to the table, also, and maybe I shouldn't be realizing this because I don't usually think about this when I'm in there, but knowing like, oh, everyone out there can hear me while I'm doing mine as well. Yeah, there's just a lot of ways to get in to become self-conscious.
Totally. That's so intense. I think it would, not that I have obviously any experience. I think it would bother me less that other people could hear me, but I think it would be tough to follow people once I've heard them do it. I think that would throw me off my game. Should I ever start auditioning? Literally never. But I think that would be such a tough part, to be able to just hear what they're doing and how they've indeed like internalized all the material. This is obviously, as we've seen, just such a tough process. Do you have like a community? Is your guild like really, helpful in this? Who is supporting you through this quite tough career?
Yeah. Short answer is yes, absolutely. What I found for myself is that in the past, I've often wanted quantity over quality and just try to surround myself and be with as many people as possible. And I'm an extrovert. And so sometimes that's great for me. I love being in big groups of people sometimes. But in terms of something as personal and I guess just I don't even know the word for it, but it's a lot. It is a lot. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of energy. And it's like you try to commodify your art just so that you can remove yourself from it and really think of it analytically and think of it like something that you are selling, because in the end you are, but it's super personal. Like I put myself into everything I do, and people wouldn't want to watch it if actors weren't putting their genuine emotions and their genuine selves into things. It would be interesting in certain ways, but just not, it wouldn't tug at our heartstrings the way the great performances do. So I think it's so important to have a community and have a team that you can rely on for a lot of things. And my number one is my wife. She might come up a lot because she and I have been through a lot together. We met in grad school for opera and both kind of started our careers together and have seen ups and downs and just all sorts of crazy stuff. And for me, a transition from the world of opera to the world of musical theater, which seems very similar in a lot of ways, which it is. They're both live music oriented performing art forms, but the worlds are so different. It's a completely different world. So she and I have really been each other's main support system. I am so insanely lucky. I have someone like her who is super intuitive, very loving and supportive also like calls me out when I need to be called out. Like she does not pull punches, and it has absolutely helped me so much when I can get in a rut and get a little bogged down and in my own way. She'll be like, "You're getting in your own way, and you just need
Yeah.
to like take a look at this and see what you need to do whatever it is I need to do."
Yeah.
So that is awesome. And yeah, so lucky, so lucky. I feel really fortunate to have gone to an acting program after I moved to New York and started going to auditions and stuff. I realized that I wanted to, I guess, just improve and to sharpen my skills and to just get better so that what I was presenting was up to the caliber that I want myself to be at. So I went to this summer 6 week intensive at the William Esper Studio in Manhattan. And after 3 days, I was like, I have to do the 2 year program. So I invested in that, did the 2 year program, which ended up being what, more like 2.5, 3 years because of a little COVID break. But that place, I'm sure a lot of acting studios are like this. I just happen to have experience with this one, but that place is truly special. I've never felt safer with a group of people and with an institution that I trusted with my development. I knew I could try anything, do anything, bring anything to the table, and as long as everyone was safe, like physically, we weren't putting anyone in harm. Like it was a safe space to try stuff out, to explore different thoughts and ideas, and be vulnerable and go places that like scared me for myself in terms of, am I gonna try to do this and just completely fall apart? Which the answer is 100% yes. So that place provided me, I have my, core class of people that I graduated with, and we're all off. It's been 2, 3 years since I graduated. And we're all, doing various things. But anytime I see any of them, it's just like we have a bond. It's really special. And some of them, if I ever need someone to help me with a self tape, I can call them and be like, hey, I need someone to read for me. I need someone to help me film. Can you help me with this? And people are just like on it. And my teacher for that 2 year program is someone who I'm continuing to work with as my acting coach. She's just been such an incredible support. I trust her both in terms of business advice in the industry and how to navigate this career logistically, but also her acting advice when we've worked on stuff and then I've submitted it. It yields results, and she knows people in the industry. She has her finger on the pulse. Yeah, these people I trust. And I think that's crucial. You have to have people that you trust. Oh, and I cannot forget my voice teacher either. Yeah, I work with my voice teacher as much as I have time for and my budget allows for. But his name is
Yeah.
Jesse. He teaches under the Matt Farnsworth studio. I've loved working with him. Matt Farnsworth has incredible teachers. If anyone's looking for a voice teacher in New York for singing, and yeah, I absolutely love working with Jesse. He has great advice, great both technically for singing and for career stuff when I need to know, like, is this theater any good? Should I audition for this? What are your thoughts on this, you know, music director, whatever it may be? People who have their finger on the pulse, who know people in the industry and can give you legitimate advice that you can trust.
Yeah. It just seems like as an actor, you just cannot reach your full potential without having a community like this around you, like without having these teachers, a partner, friends who you can rely on. Yeah, that seems so clear. I also, we've talked a lot about the challenges of this, but like, why do you do this? What do you love so much about it that you keep every day working this hard on your passion?
Yeah. The number of times I've tried to answer this is it's a lot. And it's one of those things where it's like I know because I feel it, but putting words to that, it's like trying to describe a color, or I don't know, it's just so alive and real in me that I don't question. Well, that's not true. I definitely question it. And I think that's important. But yeah, I'll start by saying in grad school, we had someone come. It was one of the teachers at the school, and she came and talked to our class and said to us, if you can imagine yourself doing another career and being happy, like if you're passionate about something else and could really see yourself having a fulfilling, happy life doing something else, do it, because this is so hard and takes so much. And, we're all grad students. We're like we're going to take over the world. No, we can't imagine anything else. And then, 6 months after we all graduate, less than 50% of our graduating class is still pursuing performing
No
in some
way.
capacity. Yeah. And maybe they're doing like small, like singing at your local church or doing a little concert here and there or performing locally and to varying degrees. But yeah, the thing that you don't realize, and a lot of times I've heard people say people don't tell you this, and I think that's kind of true. But in my journey, I had multiple people tell me this, that story I just described, and then I had other people say literally the exact same speech in a different context. I was like, oh, I keep hearing this. That's kind of interesting. I mean, it's hard. And being in a performance and performing, there's nothing like it for me. It's obviously terrifying to some people, but I can't get enough of it. There is an energy and a life and just transcendent quality that I feel when I'm both prepping for a performance, in a performance, and then the afterglow is like, I mean, it's like it's drugs. It's literally drugs. That's how it feels. And also it requires you going to hundreds of auditions and not even getting told no. You don't even get contacted after to be told no. You just have to assume it's a no when you don't hear the phone ring or you don't get a call back or whatever. And you'll get a gig or a couple of gigs and feel really good, and then there will be a dry spell, and you have no, well, maybe not no shame. I don't fault people for this because they haven't experienced it, so why would they know? But like, I think there's a misconception of what we do, and I find a lot of people in my periphery that I don't know very well when I talk about acting and stuff. They talk about it as if it's like a fun hobby, which I can understand, but also it's really hard to like keep going when you feel condescended in that way and like people aren't taking what you're pursuing seriously. And then I start asking myself, like, am I really doing this? So there's so much I feel like stacked against you, and the only thing I can say is I have this is my joke. I say this to my wife. We're sick. We're sick people. For those of us who have the sickness, I can imagine myself doing something else and being happy. I have other passions in life, but what I can't imagine is not pursuing acting
Yeah.
and being okay. Like
Yeah.
I would constantly feel like something's missing. Like there would always be what ifs. It would just be, yeah, it's less about not having other things that would make me happy and more about the hole that not having acting and that pursuit in my life. It would just leave a hole that is unimaginable to me because I have never experienced anything other than like love for another person that is like true and strong and powerful. That feels like performing. That feels like the energy you get when you're with other people creating something together and you're just in this suspended reality, super emotional, super charged, like having this experience and then you finish and it's just kind of like this bubble pops and you're just living in this effervescence of sparkly glow of like, whoa, we just did that. It's truly incredible.
I love that. I love that description. I think it truly says it all about your work and why you're doing this. That is, yeah, so remarkable. I mean, and going off that sparkly, glowing feeling, what is the proudest moment you've had in your acting career so far?
Yeah. I think for me, and this is for a lot of reasons, but this is very actually perfect timing for this because right now the Tribeca Film Festival is going on.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, again, got goosebumps just thinking about this. It's exciting stuff. But last year at the Tribeca Film Fest, a documentary was released called, oh my gosh, I always mix up the name of this, which is so embarrassing because I'm a part of it. But it's Slave Play, Not a Movie, a Play, I believe is the name of it. You can find it on HBO now if you want to watch it. And the premise of it, if you're familiar, Slave Play was a play that was on Broadway for two
Yeah.
stretches, one before and one after the pandemic. Brilliant, brilliant play, highly controversial, very
Jeremy O.
charged.
Harris, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jeremy
yeah,
O.
yeah.
Harris, just a brilliant person. He is so smart and just so full of love too.
Wow.
I really have a lot of respect for Jeremy. But as a part of that, Jeremy was contacted by HBO about making a documentary about slave play. And because of the pandemic and all sorts of mix-ups and stuff, it got to a point where they still wanted to make the documentary, but because circumstances had changed and union rules with the actors who were originally in it and their ability to pay people to be part of the documentary, and I believe this is so on and so forth, the concept shifted to, well, what if we did a documentary about the play, but from more of like an educational standpoint, from starting the play from scratch, from the ground up with actors, learning the characters, learning the roles, doing it from like as if it's the beginning of a rehearsal process. So my acting teacher, Jennifer Monaco, as part of the Esper Studio, saw that Jeremy and the team were looking for a place, a school where they could get actors to do this, and reached out and said, "You've got to do it here. You've got to do it at Esper. Like, let me be involved. Trust me, you won't regret it." They trusted Monaco and did it at the William Esper Studio. And what it ended up being was a 2-day intensive workshop of the play where we got to know in another, well, yeah, spoiler alert, Jennifer Monaco reached out to me and asked me to be a part of it, not
Yeah.
fully knowing exactly, what it would be for me, knowing that the different roles, we had anywhere from 2 to 5 people per role. And I knew full well I might show up and just watch for 2 days. And I said, you know what, just to be in the room and watch this would be really, really cool. To work with Jeremy, to work with his dramaturg who was with them from the beginning at Yale when it was written and presented originally, to hear the story behind the reception it got at Yale and all this stuff, and just to be able to work on the role for a week on my own, which was, I've never felt more immersed in my work than I did the week leading up to that. And then those 2 days, which I want to say were like 10+ hour days
Wow.
of working. I mean, it felt like rehearsal, but also we're being filmed by a film crew, which I had never experienced. And it really hit me in one moment where I got to actually do the role that I, learned and worked on way more than I expected, because lots of us were taken to different places doing different things. And I was delivering a particular monologue, I suppose you call it, speaking to the woman who's my partner in the show. And all of a sudden there is a high def camera less than a foot from my face, and to not get distracted and to just stay focused on what I'm doing was a really new experience for me. But being able to be a part of that experience, just be with these other creatives who were just thrilled to be exploring this piece together with the playwright, with the dramaturg, with the team, with one another. And really, we were doing it just to do it because it was such a cool opportunity. And we waited over a year and didn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, this is being released not only at Tribeca Film Fest, but also on HBO. And I got to walk a red carpet. I was
Oh my
interviewed.
goodness.
It was wild. And like, it's not like I was interviewed by, the New York Times or anything, but still,
But
to have photographers taking pictures of me as I walked in, someone asking me questions, sit in the theater, watch the thing we created, see myself on the big screen doing it. I was, it's overwhelming. Like, it makes me
yeah.
super emotional. Yeah. And it just reminds me of why I'm doing it. Not necessarily because my goal is to be on the big screen, but because it felt so good to be working on that project with those people with no expectation of what the final product would be.
Yeah.
It was just about diving in together and working with the person who wrote it. Like, what a lucky experience. And then all of a sudden to see that in a big way was just like surreal. It's totally surreal. So that was really exciting.
Firstly, congratulations. That sounds
Thank
awesome.
you.
And I cannot wait to go watch that. I will absolutely watch that. But yeah, it's just amazing to hear you talk about just like your absolute love and passion for the actual process of acting, of being an actor, of doing that work versus like the results. Like literally what you were just saying, like you just loved the process. You loved working with those people. You loved being able to act and do such an incredible piece of work. And then also the added bonus was, oh wait, yes, I got to walk the red carpet and see myself on the screen. Yeah, it's just so exciting. It gives me goosebumps to hear you talk about the work that you are doing and just your passion for it. It sounds incredible.
I will say that was a learned thing for me though, because there was a very results oriented mindset for a long time, which
I
makes
can
sense because
imagine.
we are all seeking certain results, which is
Yeah.
getting hired, doing shows, stuff like that. When you're in school, it's getting the part or whatever it may be. And well, that's what I want. Obviously, I want to be performing. I want performing to be my sole source of income, stuff like that. It wasn't until I really started focusing more on focusing on results is making me unhappy
Yeah.
because there's so many times you don't get the result you want. But when I'm doing the work, I am happy. So if I can just focus on what is bringing me joy, people say this and you just got to trust that it's true, but that will lead to getting work, to being hired, to doing stuff. And it's happening. So, just slowly but surely, but it's happening. And it's just keeping that mindset and reminding myself like I love doing this. So I can like let go of any sense of a timeline. Like I have to get cast in something big by this age or by the end of the year or whatever, because that's where you will drive yourself crazy.
Yeah. Which why I can imagine your community then like keeps you grounded in all of that and keeps
Yeah.
reminding you like why you're doing it. No, totally. I can imagine. I mean, I feel like that's something even I'm learning, not in a profession like this, like to not always be results driven and to
Mm,
remind yourself that everyone is on their own timeline. And, a career is so long and
yeah.
so
Yeah.
different for so many different people. We at one point in our life, yes, it was A to B to C to D, but now a career is just this completely hazy path. And I think that's one thing that like unites truly, and I think that's one thing that unite like all careers and all in all industries because
Hmm.
there is just no one path for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can imagine. Like I'm still very much trying to learn that as well. But I think that's such an important thing to kind of grasp and be aware of in your career to make sure that you ultimately are successful in the way you want to be. I want to ask, why did you switch from opera to musical theater? You had
Yeah.
done all that work. You'd gone to school. I'm sure, like, had all that training. And how easy was that switch?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I had done all the work, gone to school, and was starting to get professional work in opera, which was kind of where my head was at. I for better or for worse, sometimes this can really help me, and sometimes this really gets in my way. I can be very stubborn. That is my Capricorn. I get
I'm a
very.
Capricorn too, and I'm super
There we
stubborn
go.
too. Ugh, I feel
There we
you.
go. Yeah, and sometimes that stubbornness, for example, the perseverance of this career, like I'm not stopping. And the more people that tell me to, like, cool, I will die on a stage then. Just, like, nope, I'm not stopping. But with opera, I mean, ultimately, my goal was never to be an opera singer. Like, it wasn't, I was never growing up like, oh my gosh, I love opera so much. I want to go study opera in school. Like, this is what I want to do. When I was going to college, my undergrad, I knew I was interested in music. I wanted to major in music. Both of my parents were music majors, and my
Hmm,
mom was like, yeah, don't. And I was like,
okay.
okay, yeah. But she said, well, at least like go in undeclared and you can decide from there. Just, sign up for all the music classes and then if you want to. So, 2 weeks into school, I was like, yeah, definitely not studying anything other than music. So declared music major right away. But going into school, knowing I was interested in music and just always being someone who loved to sing, found a vocal scholarship. And, when you're looking at a private liberal arts school, you're looking for any little shred of scholarship money you
Yeah.
can find. So like, all right, cool. So I auditioned for a vocal scholarship. I got it. And part of the stipulations of getting the scholarship is you have to be a member of one of the school ensembles and you have to take voice lessons, which I was
Mm.
like, yeah, great. I want to do that anyway. That sounds awesome. So I started taking voice lessons in college for the first time ever. And it was great. I loved it. But at when you're in school for music, unless you're specifically going for musical theater, generally it's classical technique taught. So I was learning classical vocal technique in my undergraduate, and that being the case, what I was singing was a lot of opera eventually. Even though I didn't ever do the shows in college because I was a music business major.
Hmm.
I was gonna I'm gonna work for festivals and book shows and have a club, because I was trying to like do music, but also be practical and like do business too. And ultimately, what I wanted to do was sing. That's all I wanted to do. But yeah, so I studied classical voice, continued to study after college with a new teacher, but one who taught at the school. And she really was the first one to be like, you have something special. Like, I want to cultivate this. I want to encourage this. And she's the reason I applied to grad school because she really believed in me and made me realize that the times I was happiest were when I was singing. So fast forward, I go to New England Conservatory in Boston to get my master's degree in opera. And the only reason I did that was because that's how I'd been trained thus far. It wasn't
Right.
necessarily, I grew to love opera. I really love opera. I think it's fantastic. I married an opera singer.
Yeah.
Um, and I loved performing in opera. It's a really cool art form. For anyone who is not familiar with opera and never been to an opera, give it a shot. Go see
Mm-hmm.
La Boheme if you can. It's
Love La
Rent but
Boheme.
classical.
Yep. Yep.
It's a beautiful art form. I just think it's fantastic. But yeah, really, the reason I was doing opera was because it was what was available to me and what was in front of me. And it was just kind of like the next thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
did enjoy it. But one of the things I came to realize as I was doing opera is when you go to an opera audition, typically the way it goes is you bring in a repertoire list of 5 songs and you get to pick your first song. And if there's time and if they want to hear more, the audition panelists will ask for a second of the remaining 4 songs on your list.
Mm-hmm.
As I was auditioning more and more, increasingly the opera companies were asking you to put one musical theater piece on your list. Typically, you do something golden age, because opera companies, just to vary their seasons and draw a more diverse crowd and stuff, would throw a musical into their list for the season.
Interesting.
So I started singing "Sit Down, You're Rockin' the Boat" from Guys and Dolls, and
Love that song.
oh yeah, ton of
Love
fun.
Guys and Dolls as well. Great show.
Yeah, yeah, it's just it's a blast and it's a hilarious moment. It's just great energy, all this stuff. And increasingly, I didn't know why, but I think it was probably because the people who were listening to me heard it in my voice and maybe in the way I was acting, my personality. I kept getting asked to sing my Guys and Dolls at these auditions, and I would do it. And usually you don't get to talk to the audition panelists after, but every once in a while, when I was able to, they would ask me, "Oh, like, are you someone who used to do musical theater who switched over to opera?" I was like, "No, I've never done musical theater." And that kind of surprised people. And more, my wife, who, we were newly together at the time, but she had seen me perform enough in opera and then some musical theater stuff, just like goofing off and playing around and stuff. She's like, "You're so good at doing musical theater and singing pop, rock, contemporary music." And what I've learned is like I can really belt. So that's just something that for whatever reason, like my voice, like it just makes sense to me, the technique of belting as opposed to opera, which I was fine at opera. Like I was solid. I was starting to get to a point where I was being paid to do it, not enough to fully support me, but I was starting to be paid to do it by
Mm-hmm.
some reputable companies. But when I had a real sit down with myself at the urging of my wife multiple times, I need to give her that credit there because she was like, "You really need to think about this because you seem to love it and you're really good at it." I thought about it and I said, "Why am I being so resistant? I love musical theater. I grew up watching and listening to musical theater, and it's easier for me." And I think, again, maybe another Capricorn thing. Sometimes when something is harder for me, I tell myself it's a more worthwhile endeavor. When it's like pursuing musical theater is going to be plenty hard, I just happen to be better at it naturally.
Yeah.
So I started coaching with a music coach who works with both opera and musical theater, and so he understood where I was coming from, my opera background, and where I was headed, and started coaching music from the last 5 years by Jason Robert Brown with him. Very contemporary.
Love that show as
amazing show.
well. Yep.
Yeah. And Sunshine's my wife. That's her last
Mm.
name. She sat in on a couple of my coachings because she was going to coach opera after with him. And she was just like, oh my God, you have to do this. Like, and I was like, yeah,
Wow.
you're right.
Yeah.
I was resistant, but this is totally it. So once I really allowed myself to explore it more, I was just like, yeah, I gotta do this, which was funny because then shortly after I got the best opera gig I've ever gotten and took the job, did it. It was kind of my swan song. It was a great opportunity. I had a ton of fun performing, but then after that, the my wife and I moved to New York, and that's when I just started showing up to musical theater auditions and figuring out that world. And the transition was hard in the sense that the systems are different,
Mm.
learning how auditions are structured and where to find information. And, with opera, like I was mentioning, I would sing one song and then they'd have me sing a second song. So I'm in there for 10, 15 minutes.
Hmm.
Musical theater, I've had some auditions where I show up and they're like, we have so many people to get to, you can sing 8 measures of your piece. That's
Yeah.
for context, 8 measures is like maybe 10 seconds. So you
What
get
do
to
you
pick.
sing?
When I was asked to do 8 measures, I would just sing the very last line of the song Santa Fe from Newsies.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, at that point, you're just kind of got to show, like, hey, I can sing a
Yeah.
little bit. Hopefully, this is interesting enough for you to want to call me back and then I can sing a full song or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But normally it's like 32 bars. So I typically have 30 seconds to a minute to sing, but still showing your artistry and your ability to create a character and have a story arc. And also, hey, look, I can sing too in the matter of 30 seconds to a minute is very different from getting to sing 2 full songs for
Hmm.
10 minutes. So getting used to that and knowing like how to pick a good, not just a good song, but a good portion of a song and how to splice things together and all that stuff. It's definitely a learning curve for sure. Yeah.
Gosh, it is just absolutely fascinating. This is just a world that I just know nothing about and think is just so, so interesting. I could literally sit here talking to you all day. I promise, wrap it up soon. A few more questions.
Yeah.
I, you know, in this type of profession and career, there's always that question of when have you made it? Like
Mm.
when do you think you've made it? And what will be the point that you feel like you've made it? So with that in mind, and I don't know if this is a ridiculous question, but like for you, what would that mean? What would making it mean?
Yeah. My wife is going to be thrilled that you asked this because this is something that she asks me all the time. And it's an evolving answer, I feel like.
Hmm.
I mean, ultimately, what I would love for my life is have, to be able to support myself financially completely with performing,
Yeah.
to not necessarily have to go back to what we call survival jobs to make ends meet between gigs. Yeah, that's the ultimate goal in terms of like practically, but also there's an element of like I don't know in a sense if I ever for a long time, like as someone who does often think very results oriented, I've had ideas in my mind of like when I get the gig, like when I it could be make my Broadway debut or book a tour or this, like then I'll be rolling and I'll be
Hmm.
happy and I'll be good to go and stuff like that. And like, look, not saying I don't want to do those things. I absolutely do. And those are all goals of mine. But I realize from the things I have done and the gigs I have booked, and also just hearing interviews with other actors, both Broadway and film and TV and opera singers and stuff, you have people working at the highest levels who thought that once they got there, they'd find happiness, and they find it's still hard and it's
Hmm.
still uncertain. And, I still am dealing with life outside of my job. We still have life stuff and whatnot. And so I think in a sense, there's never an arrival point. It's
Hmm.
always looking to see how I can grow next, how I can evolve next. And I think ultimately, I think my new idea of what making it is being just engaged and consistent and yeah, just continuing on with the process, like we talked about before, just loving the
Yeah.
process and being engulfed in the process and throwing myself in and just whether it's a good day, a bad day, or anything in between, that I'm always working, that I'm always seeing how else I can develop, what more can I learn, how
Mhm.
can I improve, and loving that journey of just getting better and exploration through that particular art form. I think that's ultimately success because while I want to support myself financially fully with performing, I think this is the very real possibility is I could pursue this forever and get things here and there, but it might not pay the bills
Mhm.
completely. That's a possibility. And looking at that reality and asking myself like would I be okay with continuing to pursue this and doing what gigs do come my way, whether it's community theater or regional theater that I do get paid with but it's not going to pay the bills, no
Yeah.
way, things like that. Would it make me happy doing those things? Like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like I did something a month ago, 2 months ago, somewhere in that range. I got paid $100, but I was working on something brand new. It was a
Yeah.
brand new piece of art that no one had ever worked on before. And we got to explore it together and put it on. It was a week long. And it was just so fun. Like, that's not gonna pay the bill. That's gonna maybe like that'll be a night out for my wife and me, which is
Yeah.
great. I'm not going to turn it down, but I didn't do that for the money. I did that because like I was excited to work on something new. And I think that's my new idea of success is staying in that mindset of like I love doing this. I just want to find opportunities to do that. It might be on my own sometimes. It might just be just me and a buddy working on a particular scene and then seeing if we could get a space to have some people come and watch us or film it or whatever. It could be booking something where I'm doing a show for a month, any of those things. But ultimately, I just want to be doing something, and just because that's where I'm happiest is when I'm working on stuff. And it's easy to let life get in the way of that and take time and energy. And I'm just like, I'm exhausted. But I do find even when I'm exhausted, when I dive back in, it makes me happy and it refills me and stuff like that. So just can keep on keeping on. It's corny, but it's true.
No, absolutely. I think it makes total sense. That innate passion that keeps you going and that
Yeah.
will make you go through it for the long haul for sure. With that in mind though, is there a dream role that you've like always wanted to do and hope one day that maybe you can?
Yeah, I have a couple. So one of them we talked about working on the last 5 years as part of my transition into musical theater.
Yeah.
Doing Jamie, I've done the whole show in voice lesson, not at one time, but like I've worked every song in that show. I love that piece. I think it's so creative the way it's structured and the two
Mhm.
characters like go in reverse order and meet in the middle. I love Jason Robert Brown's music. I just think he's the writing is it's catchy, but it's complex at the same time. Like there's
Yeah.
such richness and depth to the orchestration and the composition and stuff, but also you could walk away so easily humming so many songs from his shows. And
I
that's not that
always get
show
it
in
stuck in my
particular.
head.
Oh
That
yeah.
always get last 5 years stuck in my head.
Yeah.
No, all the songs,
Yep.
no matter what one it is.
Yeah, 100%. I was singing it all last week at work. Just not even the Jamie role, but Jamie is definitely one that I would love to do. The one that, and this really is like my roots, I guess, in musical theater. When I was a kid, I had the like 70s VHS recording of Jesus Christ Superstar with Ted Neely and Carl Anderson, amongst others, but as they were the Jesus and Judas roles that they filmed on location in Israel.
Hmm.
It's like so 70s, it's phenomenal and stuff. But I, as a kid, watched that on repeat over and over to the point where I had the entire show, every character memorized.
That is
And
a deep cut. I was not expecting that. I love
yeah.
that.
And it just so happens that what my voice does particularly well, and I think what, I can sing different things and whatnot, depending on what's asked of me and stuff. But you're always kind of looking in this industry about like what is a separator for me. Like there's lots of things that a lot of actors have in common, but what is uniquely me? And I just so happen to be able to sing super duper high, like those roles require, which is a niche voice type. And so doing either the role of Jesus or Judas, I don't know what I would want to do more because they both are so special to me. I think as a kid, the role of Judas was absolutely my favorite and just fascinated me, and I just like wanted to like understand this man and this character and this
Hmm.
what inspired the music, and like the performance that Carl Anderson gives in that like has stuck with me for my entire life. I think he is brilliant, and he wasn't even supposed to do it. He was called last minute because the original cast person backed out, and he just
No
like
way.
is iconic in that. But then Ted Neely doing Jesus, also iconic. And I think Gethsemane is one of the best songs in all of musical theater. It's just such an epic piece. It's, rock opera at its finest. It's just so good. It's so good. And I love singing it. It just feels good to sing and fits my voice. So the combination of loving the show itself, loving the rock opera genre, but also those two roles just so happen to be my voice type and like what I do. I would love to do either of those.
Incredible. And I would love to see you in either of those. Honestly, anything. I'm serious. Like next time, please share with when you are next performing because I would love to see you sing. That would be
Absolutely.
so cool. So cool. It is almost time to let you go, I promise. But I do want to just get a little bit more specific advice for anyone who is listening and is
Mm,
relating to you in this time in their career. So,
yeah.
just simply, what advice would you have for someone who, is going through the early stages of an acting career?
Ooh, yeah. First and foremost, I would say we talked about having your people, your team, or
Hmm.
whatever. That takes time to develop, but getting really honest with yourself about who are the people in my life that I can trust and bounce ideas off of, and that won't just be yes men, but also are willing to recognize that I have a passion and support me, maybe challenge me in the ways I need to be supported, but not undercut my plight and ambition and those sort of things. Finding those people I think is so important. And don't try to force people into that role because trying to trust someone that is not trustworthy just because you want someone to trust is something I tend to do because I'm like a Labrador retriever, and I'm like, oh my God, you just acknowledged me. Let me be your best friend. The other thing too, just kind of in that vein, is and I wish someone had told me this earlier, or at least like help me know how to do this, is take care of your mental health. If you're able to, like get a therapist.
Yeah.
I know that's not accessible to everyone. I'm super lucky right now. The job I work has full benefits. So since I started working there, I've been able to go to weekly therapy and only pay a copay, which is a huge privilege. But if it's once a month, once every 2 months, and you can just put like, you know, $10 away a week until you can afford a session, like finding a therapist who works on a sliding scale or something, I think taking care of your mental health is essential because a lot of acting is hard. Like pursuing it is hard. It's a lot of rejection. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of questioning yourself. And then also when you're in a role, it can be really emotionally taxing too, depending on the role you're playing. So like having someone who you can trust and go to and be like, I'm struggling right now, I think is just so important.
100%.
And then the other thing, I guess, that kind of piggyback on each other, I would highly recommend if you are pursuing this or interested in pursuing this or feel like this is your call, give it a try. Like look at what community theaters are around or what I even just go to auditions. That's what I started doing. Just show up to auditions and see what happens. I had so many people who were so quick and willing to give me advice and help me and teach me stuff when I said, this is my first audition ever. And they were like, oh my God, sweetie, let me help you. What do you need to know? People, there's a camaraderie because everyone knows
Yeah.
how unbelievably hard this is. So asking for help and just like showing up, I think is a huge part of that. But also, as you're going along, check in with yourself. Ask yourself, am I still enjoying this? Do I want to do this? Like, is this actually what I want for my life? I think not enough people do that. And I do that all the time. Not so much because I'm doubting myself, but because I think it's important to check in. Because if I'm miserable and haven't realized it, I don't want to keep doing this. But
Mm-hmm.
also, every time I do one of those check-ins, it's really validating because I'm like, oh, things have been tough, but like the answer is hell yeah, absolutely. I have not swayed from that. So just being willing to take those times to be honest with yourself, I think is so crucial. And then just don't stop. If you feel like it's a yes when you keep going, just be persistent. Don't stop. Trust yourself. Trust your gut. If you believe that that's what you want to do, like don't let people tell you no, because a lot of people will, and you just keep showing up. You know,
Absolutely.
that's yeah, that's what matters.
All excellent, excellent pieces of advice. I'm sure that will help a lot of people. Is there also a piece of advice, like a specific piece of advice that you got when you started on this journey from one of the people you trust, from your wife, whoever, that has really resonated with you and has kept you going?
I mean, I think one of the best pieces of advice was those people early on who did tell us if you can imagine a life where you're happy doing something else, do that. Particularly because then it requires so much sacrifice. Like there's so many bachelor parties and weddings and Christmases and Thanksgivings and holidays and this, that, and the other that you have to miss because you're in a show or
Yeah.
you're in rehearsal or whatever. And that's really hard. And like my wife and I are her careers, she's getting a lot more gigs these days. And she gets back tomorrow from we've been apart for 5 months, and that's short for us. She's
Yeah.
about to be gone for a little over 3 months in the fall. And last year we were apart for 6 months, and we had to find times to visit each other and to see each other and to find times to talk every day and stuff like that. Totally worth it. Like we so believe in one another and believe in our relationship as well. We're fiercely passionate about both. But pursuing this for real takes a lot of sacrifice. And you have to be willing to put it before other things. Which is really, really hard for me sometimes. And that's what my wife will call me out on and be like, hey, like you need to like refocus and stuff like that, which is really helpful. But yeah, it's it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And I think being really honest with yourself and asking yourself, like, could I see myself living a happy life doing something else? Or like, do I need this? And get really, really honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not sure, try it. See if it works for you. I know plenty of people who did that and they're like, yeah, you know what? Not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's such good advice. Because if you know, like, I have to try this, like, amazing. Then you've answered that question and
Mm-hmm.
you go for it. But if you're like, I'm not really sure and I'm already questioning it, like maybe it's not the thing for you. But then the other piece of advice that I would really encourage people to sit with is trust your intuition. I think so often so many of us are trained to default to other people and what they tell us we are or should be or what's right, what's wrong, whatever. And I think, don't shut yourself off to outside opinions and like always be open to what other people are saying, but like, man, follow that inner compass, because when you start to tap into your intuitive thinking and your gut feelings, you know what you want, you know what you need, and you can follow that. And sometimes I'll tell my wife, she'll ask me a question. I say, I don't know how to explain why, but I know because of my gut reaction that this is what I need to do right now. And I'm so sure of that. And she's like, all right, cool, great. That's all I need
Yeah.
to know. So listen to your gut and cultivate a relationship with yourself so that you can understand what it feels like to get those gut reactions.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Generally speaking, like everyone loves to become an expert in your life, and the only
Yeah.
person who is an expert is you. So trust
Yeah.
that you know what you are doing and you are doing what is best for you. Absolutely. That is, again, excellent advice. Finally, last question for you, Dustin. What's next?
Wow. My ADHD brain just like saw
Ah,
this huge scatter plot of so many things. What's next? Well, what's next is this week I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna see my wife again after being apart.
yay.
I'm going to sing. I'm going to continue the ever ongoing process of figuring out a day-to-day plan of like, what do I want to work on today? What
Mm-hmm.
do I need to focus on? How can I best focus and develop a plan for how to work on my craft and what makes me happy? And also, in a very more specific way, what's next is I will very soon be working on a workshop of a new kids musical. um
Cool.
I don't know if I can say any details or whatever. It's a workshop for, industry professionals to hopefully get notes and maybe
Mm-hmm.
get picked up somewhere and whatnot. But that is the what's immediately next in terms of my acting world. So really excited about that. And yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That is awesome. So many exciting things on the horizon for you. Thank you so much for your time. This has been absolutely illuminating in so many different ways. I am deeply appreciative of all that you've said, of you sharing your story, and of course sharing your time. So thank you so much for coming on What's Next. I am so glad that you came on.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you so much for the thoughtful questions and diving in with me. And yeah, this is equally fun and honestly helpful for me too to be like, oh, is that what I do? Wow, that's great to clarify. So this has been great. Thank you. I really appreciate it.